Hello again, this is Scott Moore, the First Lone Scouts of the Baden-Powell Service Association. Continuing our video series on the tenderfoot requirements. This is video number 2. We're going over requirements 6 and 7, and this is going to be under the category of rope use. We're going to be going over the reef knot, the sheet bend, the clove hitch, the bowline, the round turn and 2 half hitches, the sheep shank, and how to whip or repair a rope. So to start off, the reef knot. The reef knot is also known as the joining knot in the Boy Scouts of America. It's also known as the square knot in the United States. Most of the world knows it as the reef knot. A reef knot is used to connect 2 ropes of approximately the same diameter and tie them together. The easy way to do a reef knot is with an end in both hands. Take the piece in your right hand, go over and under, change hands, and go with your left hand, go over and under again. Pull that together and you have a square knot. Square knot will get tighter the more pressure you put on it. However, it's very easy to undo because all you have to do is grab the 2 ends of the square and it pulls apart quite easily. The second knot we're going to do is the sheet bend. The sheet bend is very similar to a square knot. However, it's meant to connect together 2 ropes of different diameters. So if you have 2 short lengths of cord or rope and you want to join them together into one larger one, you would use a sheet bend. I usually start a sheet bend by putting a single bend in a piece of rope, taking my other rope, go up through the loop, around the bottom, and instead of going back through the hole, go underneath the rope you just wrapped around with. So the rope is essentially going underneath itself. Pull that tight, and that's a sheet bend. That's for connecting 2 different diameter ropes together to make one long rope. The third knot we're going to talk about is the clove hitch. The clove hitch is used for connecting a rope to a spar in case you're going to be doing, let's say, any sort of building a tripod or any sort of lashings. You're going to want to initially, for most lashings anyway, connect your rope to your spar using a clove hitch. For a clove hitch, I wrap around once, cross the rope over itself, and then tuck it underneath itself. And then when I pull this through, I have what's called the clove hitch. As I said before, this is for beginning any sort of lashings. It's the most common way to start off a lashing. You connect this to one spar, you do the rest of your lashing, and when you finish up your lashing, you typically end with a clove hitch as well. So as you can see, this is pretty tight to the spar. It doesn't become loose very easily. Now for the bowline, what we're going to do is I have the end of the rope, one end of the rope in my hand. I'm going to make a loop in the rope. And then, as I have taught this to Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts in the past, the end of the rope we're going to call the bunny. The bunny will run up through his hole, around the tree, and back down into the hole. Once you do that, grab the big loop at the bottom, plus the bunny, and pull everything together. Once you've done that, you have a bowline or a rescue knot. And notice that no matter where I pull on the rope, the size of the loop does not change. And that is a very secure knot, so it's used a lot for, as I mentioned before, water rescues and things like that. The next one is going to be a round turn and 2 half hitches. Round turn and 2 half hitches are very similar to a taut line hitch, which is used to secure tent lines or volleyball net. I'm going to use my spar and the round turn. Just wrap the rope around the spar. So at this point the spar is just resting in the rope. Wrap it around the second time. Make sure I give myself enough rope there. And then we're just going to do a half hitch. So bend the rope, or bend the end over itself, tuck it through. Give myself a little more space there. And then we're going to do that a second time. That gives us the round turn with 2 half hitches. Now, one of the nice things about this, as I mentioned before, it's very similar to a taut line hitch. I can make it shorter if I want, or longer. I can simply slide that knot back and forth and give myself more room and make the rope tighter or looser. So I can even pull the spar to me by pulling on the knot. The final knot we're going to do is the sheep shank, and the sheep shank is for reducing the size of a rope without cutting it. Once I get this untied here, the way I like to do the sheep shank, or to demonstrate it, is to make an S or a Z, depending on your perspective, with the rope. And make sure I have enough of it here. Okay. Once I've done that, I'm going to work with both ends of the rope. The end over here and the end that's down here hanging off the screen. I'm going to take my opened end first, wrap it around my rope, and tuck it under itself. Then I'm going to take the other end, which is much longer, wrap it around itself, and tuck it underneath. You can tell this is a much longer piece of rope than I really needed for demonstration purposes. And this is a sheep shank. It is not an extremely tight knot. It is possible that it could slip, but this is an easy way for shortening a length of rope without cutting it. Finally, you may have noticed the ends of the rope I've been using are slightly frayed. We're going to talk about how to repair a rope. This happens to be a cotton fiber rope. If this was made out of plastic fibers, you could do something called fusing a rope, which if you stick the ends in the fire or you heat it with a lighter, it actually melts the plastic fibers together, so you will get a melted wad at the end of the rope. It then further prevents the threads from coming undone because they're all melted together. We can't do that with a cotton rope because this will just burn, so we do something called whipping. To whip a rope, you want to determine where the rope is frayed to. So I'm going to say this is frayed down to about there, maybe about 2 inches. I'm going to cut a piece of string, and I'm going to hold that next to the rope. I'm going to have my string just a little bit taller than my rope is. And I'm going to let the string hang down to just past the point where the rope is frayed to. So I'm going to say it's frayed a little bit shorter than that. I bend the string, make a loop in it, and at this point I'm going to hold all 3 together, the end of the rope plus the end of the string plus the top of the loop of my string, and I'm going to wind the string around the rope. Loop after loop, as tight as possible, and so that my loops are relatively right next to one another on the rope. keep moving my fingers down a little bit more to give myself more room to put more wraps on there. And as I hit my thumb, I move down a little bit further. And I started off with about probably 2 feet of string, maybe a little less. But I can wrap that around as much as possible, hopefully till you're just past the point where the rope has been unraveled. So now I have this loop at the bottom of the rope, and I have this free piece of string that I've been winding around. When I get to the end of my whip, I take my loose piece of string that I've been wrapping around, I stick it through the loop and grab the end. I also grab this little piece at the far end. I pull those two together, and my rope is repaired. At this point, I can cut off this green string, and I can cut off these two little ends, this little end and the big end that are hanging, and my rope is now repaired. With that whip on there, that will keep the rope from fraying any further. And it's also strengthens the rope a little bit because that string is on there pretty tight. So that's how to whip a rope. Those are all the rope use requirements for the Tenderfoot badge, requirements 6 and 7. Our next video will go over the history of the American flag, which should be the final requirement for the Tenderfoot badge. I hope you tune in. Thanks.